As compelling as photorealistic renderings can be, sometimes you want a presentation that has a different graphical feel. Revit LT offers several alternatives to the full photorealistic rendering. Let's open up this simple perspective view. Now here you can see that the view is set to a simple hidden line display. But there are other ways we can display this view, such as a few different types of shaded view, and we call these visual styles in Revit LT. So down here on the view control bar, I'll click the small pop-up, and let's try shaded. Now as you can see, all the different surfaces shade with various colors assigned to their materials. If we want to actually see those materials slightly more accurately, we can choose realistic. You'll see that it's displaying the bitmap textures that are applied to the surfaces, and it's accurately displaying the RPC entourage people there in the space. Now visual styles are not limited to just 3D views. I can open up this floor plan here, and you'll see this floor plan already has the shadows turned on right here, but it's currently set to a hidden line display. I can choose shaded again, or even realistic, and give this floor plan a very different feel. By default, the poché that you see in the thickness of the walls is controlled by the wall's structure and materials. However, using visibility graphics, we can customize the look to suit a particular communication intent. So on the View tab, I'll click the Visibility Graphics button, and you'll notice here in the Cut Pattern column that most of the items have a gray shaded box here. This indicates that the graphics have been overridden to show this solid gray color that we're seeing in the poché fill for all the walls. Perhaps we want to use a different color for the walls. I'm going to select the walls category, come over here and click the small gray box. You can see it's currently set to this gray color. I'll choose this bright violet color here. Let's click OK a few times, and now you'll see the poché in the walls displaying with the desired color. Now sometimes you have a particular plan or section view cropped a certain way and you would like to see the same view three-dimensionally. Now you can't simply take a 2D view and spin it into 3D, but what you can do is take a 3D view and make it match the orientation and cropping of any of your 2D views. So I'm going to open up the default 3D view, which is currently just an axonometric of the entire building. Over here I'm going to right-click the view cube and choose the Orient to View option, Floor Plans, and then I can choose any of the floor plans that are currently in my project, such as my enlarged room 206 with shadows. Now you'll see the model spin around to match the orientation of that floor plan, and if I orbit it back into 3D, we've now taken our full 3D view and cropped it down to match the cut plane of the floor plan. Now I can turn on all the same settings that we saw before. It's already shaded, but I can turn on the shadows, and I can change the wall poché to the same color to give it the same graphical appearance as the floor plan. We've looked at many ways to change the graphical display and convey design intent and emphasize certain aspects of the project. In this example, let's tie the graphical presentation to the data within our model. In other words, we can use the data in our model to intelligently change the way that elements display. To demonstrate this, I'll go to the Level 2 floor plan. And what I'd like to do is color code the various apartment units to convey different bits of information. So on the Annotate tab, I'm going to go over here and choose the Color Fill Legend. When I do, the color scheme dialog will display, and it's going to color code the rooms based on whichever scheme I choose here from the list. And I can choose either department or name. Let's choose name, and I'll click OK. And you're going to see the legend fill in with several different names, and each of those names corresponds to a color, and those colors will shade in the floor plan. Now this is a really simple example that takes advantage of the fact that each of the rooms here in my model has a unique name. We can modify the color scheme to make it look at different settings in the rooms. So I'm going to select the color scheme legend, and up here on the ribbon choose Edit Scheme. And then down at the bottom I'm going to duplicate the existing scheme and give it a new name. I can input a new title for the room legend. And this drop down here is a list of the properties in room objects that I can base the colors upon. So in this case, I'm going to choose the area of the rooms. Now Revit LT will warn me that it has to replace all of the values currently in the list. Now, the default, each room is going to independently list its own square footage. What I want to do is change this to by range. We set the starting range. In this case, I'll do anything that's less than 1,000 square feet, and then I'll add another value for anything that's up to 2,000 square feet. And now the values represented in the legend are indicating the amount of square footage. Now, what's even more powerful about this is if one of the walls in the model were to move, and therefore change the size of the corresponding room, you'll see that the color of this unit immediately changed because it now moved into another area in the range.